is everybody this Tuesday morning? I am just trying to find me here live on my phone so I can follow along with your comments and interaction. Welcome to September 24th. We are going to be discussing prioritization and time management around our personal and business time. And as small business owners, you know as well as I do, we're juggling I want to be extreme here, but 1,000 different hats. I think pretty sure some days I feel, good morning, Nicole. Good morning, Susan. I think that it feels like 1,000. It might only be 3 or 4 that day, but it certainly feels a lot more than that. Just the pressure and the overwhelm that goes along with it. And so kind of looking back at what we have discussed already this year and our topics and just what's been coming up. We did touch on some of this back in February, and I thought maybe now we're coming into the fall, and it might be a good time to kind of just check in again and go over this, because as we ramp up for the holiday season, and it can be overwhelming, we can bring stress onto ourselves. And so I thought it would be a really great day to do this. One, personally for me, it's coming up. So I'm excited, but my mom is coming tomorrow with my cousin who I've not seen in decades. Like I want to say a good 20 years, I've not seen her. And so, and with that comes a lot of like, oh my goodness, like what do I need to do to get ready for them to come? And not that I need to impress them, but still it's that added pressure, right? So knowing that, what we do in our business, good morning, Paya, and what we do in our personal lives really interacts. And I remember when I worked back in corporate, of course, I was single, right? And so I didn't have children. Good morning, Doreen. And I didn't have, all this other things that I'm responsible for now. Like it was just me. And so managing my time was so much easier, or so it seemed, right? Like I was able to do awesome. Well, stay safe while you're running errands, and you're listening in, Susan. So, right. So we want to make sure that as our responsibilities change, so too do our necessary skills regarding time management and prioritization. Good morning, Valeria. And how we make that prioritization shift. So that's what we're going to kind of talk about. And for me, like so side note, like I put my hand up and now I have my hand raised on the Zoom. We'll see if that eventually goes away. We'll never know. So for those that have not joined us before, I'm Karen. I come live to you every Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock. I have topics in mind that I'm going to talk about. I kind of have them pre-planned, but then I kind of take a look at what's going on. Good morning, Sarah. In the group, in the other groups that I belong with, what's happening with my clients, and I kind of adjust based on that. And so this morning we were going to just focus on boundaries. And I thought, no, I think we need to kind of go a little bit broader. I think we need to talk about prioritization and also delegation, right? What does that look like? What does our scheduling look like coming into the holiday season? So I have been doing business coaching, life/business coaching for almost, well, I just had my 18th anniversary. So since 2006. And I bring with me a lot of corporate background, nonprofit background. I was a personal trainer. So I have this holistic perspective as a Reiki master as well, and a craniosacral therapist. So I kind of bring that mind, body, spirit into my coaching element. And that's what I try and bring to these trainings as well for all of you, because back then when I was single and I had nothing else responsible for except for my home, right? My priorities are different now. Good morning, Sharon. And I have to shift my way of time management and prioritization, decision making, because things have shifted. So that doesn't mean my values have changed, but how I prioritize things change, right? And that's what we want to talk about today. So if we had to take a minute and just kind of reflect back where you are right now versus, say, 5, 6, 7 years ago, how has your time responsibility changed? What major life events have happened that have impacted how you make decisions around your time management, around that balancing and the prioritization? So take a second and just think about it. Like, what has changed? So for me, oh, look, I just got a notice. I can lower my hand. Yes, please. From Zoom. Thank you. Right. So for me, my son got his driver's license. So guess what happens? Now my time of having to drive him where he needs to go has been freed up. Another thing that happened a couple of years ago was he stopped playing AAA hockey downstate, which meant I actually had 40 hours given back to me because he started playing for his local high school. And that's, for me, I went through this like 2 or 3 month period where I didn't know who I was. My identity changed, right? Everybody knew me as the morning nanny, as the mom who was like on the go all the time, who was never home and making dinner at like 2 p.m. to get downstate for her son's practice, right? Like that's kind of like, I never really did anything local because we were always on the go for hockey. And when that shifted, I was like, whoa, what am I going to do with 40 hours that I'm not driving? Like that was drive time alone, right? So what's happened when you look over the last 5 or 6 years? What's changed where all of a sudden now you have different priorities? Good, bad, or different, it doesn't matter, right? Your time commitment looks different. And that impacts your schedule and your decision making, right? So when we think about that, we want to talk about the 3 things today is flexibility, delegating, and boundaries. And when we talk about flexibility, yes, we're talking flexibility about our body, right? We want to be able to, good morning, Valerie. Good morning, Michelle. We want to make sure that we are obviously physically flexible because our physical bodies play an important role in how we manage our day-to-day stresses, right? But flexibility of our day, flexibility of our schedule. And you're going to start to see a theme as we go through these, right? Because when we think about flexibility, we need to think about that flexibility of our thoughts, our mindset, flexibility of our time. When we're talking about delegating, we want to be thoughtfully thinking about what we're delegating and who we're delegating to. And we want it to be timely, right? We'll set ourselves and whoever we're delegating to, we want to set them up for success. Boundaries, right? Yes, it's about having the confidence to be able to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't have time for that. Or yes, I can take that on. But it's about thoughtfully looking at what we want to say yes to and what we want to say no to. And again, timely. Our boundaries need to be timely. And so that's part of the theme between that flexibility and delegating and boundaries is being thoughtful and timely with all 3 of those. And that's how we're going to approach today. So as we move through this is, yes, I'm standing here talking before you, but this is interactive. So please comment, please provide input, give me your thoughts as we're going through. And if I'm in the middle of a sentence and I see your comment, I will come back to them, I promise. If you're watching the replay, because these will be pinned to the top under the featured section, you can always hashtag replay. And if you're commenting and I don't respond timely, please reach out and DM me so we can get you the support and feedback and interaction that you are looking for. Okay, so right now we're going to dive into flexibility. What does it mean to have a flexible schedule? So we have all of these different time blocking tools. We can use different metrics, right? So we think of they call it now the urgent, it's the Eisenhower matrix, but now they've actually renamed it to something else. I'm not quite sure what they're renaming it to, but the urgent and non-urgent or important or non-important, but it's really the Eisenhower matrix. We can use time blocking, right? So there's all these different tools we can be using to manage our time and to know where we're going to focus our time. But where do we start, right? We want to thoughtfully start with what is a priority today. So we may have our schedule set out, like I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. So like this morning, it was like kids to school. I'm going to, do some of my own personal reading. And I just started this amazing book called A Radical Awakening. Amazing book. So did some of that reading for me personally. And then I was like, okay, get ready, make the post. So I have a schedule up, but then I have to be flexible within that schedule, right? So when you think of thoughtfully being flexible with your time schedule, it means allowing yourself the ability, giving yourself permission to say, oh, I got to shift things up. So for those that caught the live last week, I don't know if you were here or not, but if you watch the replay, you'll see or you'll hear me talk about how the city had to come and replace some sidewalk. And well, they came Tuesday morning instead of Monday, right? So all of a sudden now we're having to hear that in the background. So flexibility with mindset. I had to be thoughtful about how I'm going to approach the training, knowing this was going to be going on in the background. So thoughtfully thinking about what is my priority today and how I'm going to approach that. Using one of the tools you have to create your schedule, you want to make sure that you build in time for flexibility. So Nicole says she's thinking she's too flexible. It allows me to put off important tasks. Yes. So what else does that sound like? Anybody want to chime in? If we are too flexible, if we put off tasks, what does that sound like? It sounds like procrastination a little. So yes, right. So Nicole calls herself out, right? Procrastinating. So when we give ourselves, and that's the fine balance, when we give ourselves the flexibility to shift and change, we can also get caught up in the trap of procrastination. And that's where that fine line is. Now, it's okay that all of a sudden, if you're in the middle of a project or you're working on something and you go, I just need to take 5 minutes and think about this. You're not procrastinating, you're reflecting, right? You're analyzing, you're reviewing, you're adapting, et cetera. But with the flexibility of time, it's really about allowing yourself to shift gears outside of your set schedule. So I may be, right? So this time slot at 11 a.m. on Tuesdays is a non-negotiable for me. It does not shift. Now, a few weeks ago, you will have noticed, if you watch the replay, I kind of cut it short because my husband came home from work unexpectedly. And normally, I mean, that hasn't happened in almost 20 years. So for him to come home, guess what I'm going to do? Business stops, he becomes my priority. So my schedule, the flexibility was allowing myself permission to stop what I was in the middle of doing, being graceful with myself and saying, you've got this, it's okay. The people that are watching part of the training, they're going to get it, they're going to understand. And you shift your direction, right? So the flexibility is about allowing yourself to see right now something has changed in my priorities. And I need to be flexible with how I think about that and how I use my time. So Nicole says she's got a new planner last night, so it's going to solve all my problems. Awesome. So keep us posted how the planner works. And so that reminds me, right? We are going to be using all these different tools. What works today may not work tomorrow. And that's the other part of that thoughtfully being flexible, is allowing yourself to realize, oh, this does not work. Why am I using this tool? This is not working for me. Like this is like I'm spending more time. So be graceful with yourself. Allow yourself to change your mind if a tool isn't working. If you're not being as productive, remember there's a difference between being busy and being productive. So if you are not as productive as you want, then allow yourself to go, this isn't working. And when you find the pieces that work for you, you're going to know, because all of a sudden time is going to be going on. You're like, oh, I got all this stuff done. This is amazing. Right? So when you are thoughtful with your time and you're flexible with how you're thinking and your permission structure and your time to a certain degree, you're going to find your productivity goes up. Right? And you're also going to find your stress goes down because of that flexibility. Right? So another way you can look at a flexible schedule is knowing that you build in time to be down. So if you're using time blocking, you add in 5 or 10 minutes 2 or 3 times throughout the day. So then that way you can say, okay, this is my downtime. What am I going to do? I'm just going to sit back and relax. Or, oh, I'm going to get this done. Or go get a bite to eat, kind of thing, right? So when you are flexible with time, you also want to be able to build in some time within that schedule. So that's the flexibility part of your prioritization and time management when you're looking at work and life. So it'll never be perfect. It'll never be completely balanced. It'll never be 50-50. So, right. So Nicole says she writes down her non-negotiables and then puts her tasks in between. Absolutely. And you know that, right? So you know what is non-negotiable. And you make that the priority. And that's where you're going to start, right? And then the other thing you want to ask yourself is, when are you most productive? Are you a morning person where you get so much done in the morning? Or are you an afternoon person? Or are you a night owl? So knowing when you are actually most productive, and this kind of leans into a learning style perspective, right? Knowing when you learn best, knowing when you are most productive is when you really want to make sure that part of the day is set aside for your most important tasks that day. So if you have to write content for yourself, if you have to record video for yourself, and you just know this is my day, I need to do it. The rest of my calendar is clear. I don't have any other priorities. This is what I'm going to do today. You want to make sure you're doing it when you are at your most productive. So that's kind of the flexibility you're looking for. So your non-negotiables, they're hard and fast, but you still have to allow a certain wiggle room. So remember that. So moving into, right, and that moves into delegating. Because when we are thinking about when we work the best, like what time of day we are most productive, what's on our priority list, we also want to know, what are the things that we like to do and what are the things that we don't want to do, or we don't like to do, or we don't know how to do, right? So, right, Nicole says she totally agrees with this. If I get some movement late morning, I get more productive after. So I spend a few minutes picking up around the house. Right, move your body. It kind of kickstarts that energy. Absolutely. So anything you can do to kind of kickstart yourself to be up and moving allows your brain to be active. Awesome. Congratulations, Nicole. That's awesome. Yeah, and she's saying, this is what gets me when I don't know how to do something, I put it off, right? And that's where the procrastination kicks in, because when we don't know how to do something, or we're not very savvy at it, we tend to avoid it because it's a fear. I'm not good enough. I don't know how to do this. I'm going to fail at this. And all those negative Nellies. And for those that are new who have never heard me use that term, that's who I call my little negative Nelly who likes to talk smack about myself. So I've named her. She's Negative Nelly, and we deal with her. So, right. So we want to look at, what are those tasks that we don't really want to do, or we don't have the time to do, or that we're not very good at, and how can we delegate those? And you're only going to know how to delegate them, good morning, Kimberly, is by knowing where your skill gap is. And this takes some time. So you want to be able to say, this is what I'm really good at. I'm not very good at this. Can I delegate it? Can I outsource it? Who do I know that is good at this that I can have them do it for me? Now, here's a challenge. As small business owners, we may not have the financial budget to delegate or outsource, right? So, yeah, so Nicole says also networking gives her a pool of different people to either delegate or to give you pointers. Absolutely, to guide you, to help mentor you, to shorten, reduce that skill gap where you can get those things done that maybe you don't know how to do 100%, right? So starting where your skill gap is, you can start to say, I'm really good at this. Good morning, Kelly, but I can't afford to outsource it. So what am I going to do? You're going to time slot that into when you're most productive. So then that way you can begin to learn, do whatever research you need to do to say, how do I do this better? Because that's when you are on, that's when you are the most productive. So put those things in that time slot. And I have a term, I call it aces in their places. You need to know who's really good at what, so you can delegate to that person that task. You can look at bartering, right? What are some of the solutions you can think of to delegate if you don't have the financial resources, right? So there's a bartering system. You can find people who are open to bartering and exchange services or products for service, whatever that might look like. So start to brainstorm and lean into groups like ours to say, I really need support doing this. I'm strapped for cash. I can't do it. Is anybody willing to barter with me or whatever, right? So lean into the resources that you have at your fingertips. These Facebook groups are a great place to start. There's also, I belong to one for Michigan. It's a Michigan bartering group. And it's basically you post what you have and what you need. And somebody, if they have that and they're willing to barter with you, then your problem is solved, right? Because you get what you need and they get something that they need. So that can be something to think about. It's also about financially planning, setting goals appropriately so you can get in a position where you can delegate and outsource as necessary. So the other thing when we're talking about delegating and we're talking about that timely piece, you want to take a look at the list of all the things on your to-do list, of the task list, your ideas list, whatever is there, and say, what's taking the most time? And if you had to pick one thing right now, what is taking the most time for you and your business? What tasks in your business are taking the most time? So, and there is a delay. So I'm kind of giving you guys some time to respond. So when you think of those tasks that take you the most time, even if you're good at them, even if it's something that you can do, it's within your skill set, but it's timely. Because there's certain tasks that you want to do and you love to do, but they're timely, like they're just labor intensive. Like you have to hand do that, right? So Nicole's saying for her, it's reaching out to leads, social media, email marketing, right? So when we identify those tasks that are super labor intensive, that we just know we have to do, you then want to break it down and start to say, out of those tasks, can I automate any of that? Because when we're talking about delegating and outsourcing, we don't necessarily mean we have to have a warm body doing it for us. It can also be an automated system. So if we look at reaching out to leads as an example, right? Because that's when I think no matter what business you're in, whether you are in a service-based business or if you are in a product-based business, interacting with leads leads to sales. So it becomes a main priority. Is there really any way to automate that? When you think of your business and the model you use, is there a way to automate that communication with those leads? Right. So Nicole's saying that she's at the point of needing a CRM. So picking one and setting it up has been the priority now, so she can automate. Right. So when we are looking at implementing some sort of automation tool, you want to make sure you're testing a few. You're kind of getting in, watching the tutorials, interacting with it, making sure that it is the solution you're looking for before jumping in with 2 feet and setting everything up. And then finding out, oh, this isn't what I needed. Right? Second, so we found a really great tool because we use Slack and Trello, and we had it, and then Google Sheets, and we had it automated. So information would flow one through the other and then update. And so we were really only having to, physically check in on Slack because we could see all the updates that happened in Trello. So if somebody went in and updated Trello, and then all of a sudden we were reaching a point where the automation tool became ungodly expensive. And we had to sit there and go, okay, so how much time is it really saving us for this investment? Because time is your investment or financial money is your investment, right? It's got to be one or the other. Or you can try and find a hybrid. In this instance, there was no hybrid approach because once you implemented the tool, the automation took over everything, which was great. It was an amazing tool, but it wasn't saving us enough time to warrant the investment every month. So we went back to manually kind of updating and, kind of copying and pasting and making sure we're, crossing our T's and dotting our I's. So that's the other piece. When you're looking at delegating, you have to be honest about how much time or money you're going to be spending on that delegation. So another example is you hire a social media manager or a content creator to go in and create your social media content and post it for you. If you're having to micromanage that person, is it worth the financial investment to have that social media manager? In most cases, there will be a benefit to having somebody take this over for you, especially if it's not your thing, right? And social media can be super overwhelming. So you want to make sure you're looking at it from that type of analysis, and you need to review it all the time. When you're making a monthly investment, my recommendation to my clients is every 2 to 3 months, you want to be reviewing what's the investment financially and what's the time saving, and is it still worth it? Or is there another tool out there that can do the same thing, but it's not as costly? So that's when we're talking about thoughtfully delegating and it's being timely. You need to make sure whatever tasks you're delegating are truly time sensitive. How are you delegating and when are you delegating them as well, right? Because when you delegate, and again, delegation doesn't need to be to a person, it can be an automated system, right? Then you're looking at your stress level goes down if you have the right tool and the right person in place. If it's not the right person, like if you've asked them to do the same thing multiple times, guess what? Your stress level is going up because now you're having to invest more time to micromanage. And I don't know about you, but I'm not a micromanager. So when I delegate or I bring somebody on, I want them to be able to do the job I ask them to do without me having to constantly tell them what to do. Now, it's different if they're asking clarifying questions. Hey, just confirming this. I'm about to do this. Do I have your approval for posting? That's different, depending upon the relationship and how you've set that up with them. But micromanaging is basically starting each and every project for them, or coming in and finishing the project for them, or going back in and correcting the project for them, right? And I'm thinking from social media management at this perspective as we're talking, right? So, kind of going in and having to like edit the caption after it's been posted, because when you read it, all of a sudden you realize that doesn't even make sense, or it's not on brand, or there's no call to action, etc. So you want to take all that into consideration, right? So that's the delegation piece when we are talking about prioritization and time management, because you want to prioritize delegating those things that take too much of your time, that you're not able to become more efficient or effective at, or that you don't have that skill set, and you want to delegate it, right? So, because then this becomes our third topic, which is boundaries. And yes, it's boundaries are about having the confidence to say, nope, I'm not going to do that. Or yes, I can do that. Right? Boundaries let people know where you end and they begin. Boundaries allow you to feel empowered to be able to focus your time and energy on the things that you want to do, that you're good at, that you take pleasure in, that you find joyful. If you don't feel all those things when you're doing a certain task, then it's time to look at the number 2 of delegating. And can you do it? Or prioritizing it where you put it in when you are most productive of the day so you can get it done as quickly as possible, right? So when you're thinking of boundaries, it's really about helping you to manage your stress. What causes you stress? When you think of all the tasks you have to do, what causes you the most stress? And that's where you really want to start when you're thinking about your boundaries. What causes me stress, and how do I decrease and eliminate the stress associated with that task? So when we're talking boundaries and we're talking about timely, what we're really talking about is consistency. Good morning, Macy. Right? We are talking about consistently reinforcing that boundary we've put in place. Now, we have to also still be flexible with some of those boundaries, right? So going back to the example that I used earlier, non-negotiable is this 11 o'clock time frame with you guys. But my husband coming home unexpectedly, guess what? My priorities immediately shifted. My boundaries of no interruptions to my family. This is time that I have dedicated to my group that I have committed to. So don't interrupt me. Guess what? That boundary shifted because something unexpected happened, right? My husband never comes home from work in the middle of the day. So the fact that he walked through the door unannounced means there is something that I need to be available for. That is not him interrupting on purpose. This is not him just coming in willy-nilly and disrespecting my priorities or what I'm committed to. That's something has happened. And so I'm shifting my boundaries. I'm shifting my priorities based on my values, right? So boundaries help us define our day to say, what is my priority today? Have I done self-care today? Do I have it on my schedule that I'm going to take care of me today? Right? So this morning I was telling you guys, I started a new book. It's actually through Audible. I'm listening to it. And so spending time listening to a couple of chapters is my boundary of saying, okay, like I want to continue my own self-learning, my own self-awareness, reflecting on my own personal growth and wellness. So I'm going to create some time to do that and listen to the book every day. So now when that happens might look different every day. So it may not happen at 8:30 in the morning. It may happen at 8:30 at night. But the importance of it allows me to create that boundary to say to my family, I'm going to be listening to my audiobook right now. So if you need me, tap me on the shoulder, kind of thing, right? So they don't think I've completely checked out and I'm ignoring them. So I'm going to get started there. Where am I spending my time? How do I value my time? How do I value me? How do I represent that? And how do I make decisions around that? So just like we were talking about when we're delegating tasks, not being a micromanager means you're also respecting that person's boundary, right? Trusting that you have the right person in place means you don't need to be constantly checking in with them. You don't have to be overbearing with them. You don't have to be, hovering, watching them work, so to speak. So being thoughtful around boundaries is knowing when to implement a new boundary or adjust a present boundary. An adjustment doesn't have to happen and be permanent. The adjustment could be temporary, right? So it's so that's what we're talking about, right? What questions do you guys have around boundaries and delegating and the flexible schedule? Because we kind of talked a lot about different things. So flexibility with our schedule, our mindset, right? So time and thoughtful, delegating, thoughtfully delegating, timely delegating. Our boundaries, we want to be thoughtful and we want to be timely with those, right? Meaning being consistent. So the common thread between all three of these topics today is being timely and thoughtful. So knowing that, what are you guys thinking as you're reflecting right now on your own schedule, how you delegate, can you delegate or outsource, or adopt automation pieces, and then your boundaries? Questions? Thoughts? Agree, disagree? Has it been helpful? Okay. So if there is, look, I keep putting my hand up, and so Zoom keeps asking me if I want my hand up or not. If there's no questions, that's okay, because this is kind of one of those things that you want to keep thinking about, and it's not going to be immediate. So if you have questions later on, comment, shoot me a DM. And if you haven't taken advantage of the 15-minute strategy call as a member, you're each gifted a 15-minute strategy call with me. Please reach out so we can get you on the calendar and we can kind of talk through whatever challenges you're going through or trying to find a solution or strategy that you might need to help with your business. The other thing is we launched on Saturday the small business directory. And I put the link in a couple of times. It's free for the first year. So you just need to register into the community and you will have access and your profile will show up on the directory. Over the next 12 months, we are going to be adjusting it, expanding it, refining it based on your usage and your feedback. So which is why you guys are getting that first year free. But it also allows you to access all of the insights. It allows you to access the monthly Biz 101 group coaching session, which is like the first or second Wednesday of every month at no charge. And so, It's a great deal, especially well, it's free, so you can't get much better than that. So feel free to register. I encourage all of you guys to register for that, and then reach out if you have any questions regarding the topics today. And then let me know if you haven't done your one-on-one session with me yet, then reach out. We can get that scheduled for you. Okay, so no questions. I think we're good. I'm here for you guys. Thank you for joining. I appreciate all of you for being here. And I look forward to next Tuesday. And you guys have an amazing afternoon. You're welcome. Thank you, Kimberly. Yeah, so just reach out if you guys need anything, and then we will see each other next Tuesday. Thanks.